Hi, I'm Brant Menswar, and welcome to my show, Just a Moment. As a former world touring musician turned keynote speaker and author, I've experienced my share of life-altering moments that have both broken me and propelled me forward. How you leverage those moments or push through them will define your destiny. Each week on my show, I'll provide tools on how to maximize those moments, as well as interview some of the most successful entrepreneurs, entertainers, and athletes on how the power of a single moment changed their life. Join me to learn how to change what's possible for your life. It'll take just a moment. Today's guest proves that crashing and burning isn't always a bad thing. As Monster Jam legend and the driver of Monster Mutt himself, Bryce Kenny, enters the ring. We'll be talking about everything from his sports prodigy past to the failures that built the foundation of his future successes. Bryce, it's time to do your thing, buddy.
I'm Bryce Kenny, and this is my moment. I grew up in High Point, North Carolina, actually only about 15 minutes from where I live now. One of four boys. My wife is one of four girls growing up too, so it's always fun. I've got two daughters and a son now. And so every time my son does something crazy, my wife looks at me and says, "Is that just a normal boy thing?" And I'm like, "Yes, he's fine." And then when my daughters do something crazy, I look at her and say, "Is that just a girl thing?" And she says, "Yeah, they're just fine," because that's all we know. But it was a lot of fun and a crazy household to grow up in. But thankfully, I've always had great parents as well, and who always supported our endeavors. But man, to have supportive parents growing up, that made all the difference for me. When I was really young, elementary school, I always said I wanted to be a chiropractor like my dad. And I'm so glad today that I did not follow that path. I love chiropractic, big believer in it, of course. But I remember being 12 years old, almost 13, and it was the first time I ever saw a top fuel dragster go down the track. And if you've ever seen those, they're the long, skinny dragsters. They go 300 miles an hour in 4 seconds. And I was up in New York at a small racetrack, and it was the first time I ever saw it, felt it. Those cars, they set off a 2 on the Richter scale that measures earthquakes up to a mile away. That's how violent these things are. The first time I ever saw one go down the track, I was like, I've got to do that one day. And then my grandfather actually bought one. He started driving it that very next year. And then when I saw him go down the track in one, I said, I'm going to do that. I was obsessed with it. Everything that I daydreamed about was drag racing. And so I knew even in high school, that's what I was going to do, was something in motorsports. But it wasn't just a thrill. Like a lot of people are like, oh, you just wanted to feel the feeling. The answer is, of course. Like, I would love to be shot out of a cannon, metaphorically speaking, driving a 300 miles an hour in 4-second dragster. But the bigger thing for me was the platform. I have been amazed through my life to see the platform that race car drivers have. When you walk into a room, if you're in motorsports, people care, and then they listen to what you have to say. So if you have something to say of value, then you can make a real difference.
Though his love of motorsports was always center stage, Bryce was originally presented with a different path as his sports skills landed him a college scholarship.
I always knew I wanted to go to college and get a degree. However, I wasn't sure I wanted to play soccer. I loved the sport, but I loved what you could do through the sport, right? I loved what a team could do together. And I had one of my coaches say, Bryce, it's not the Army. Like, you're getting recruited and you've got a couple Division I offers. Why don't you just give it a try? And you can leave if you don't like it. And I thought, that's true. But the problem is, knowing myself even better now, I can't quit anything. So I was miserable my freshman year, just miserable. I felt like I was wasting my time. Division I soccer was such a business, so it took the fun out of it. I actually just went back to do a talk for Campbell University, so it was cool to be back on campus. But I went and I walked the soccer field, and I look back thinking to myself, why did I not enjoy this more? Like, I took it so serious, and things like that are serious, right? It is a business and all that. But man, why couldn't I have just slowed down and just enjoyed the ride a little bit more than I did? I decided to leave after I got injured and I lost my soccer scholarship my sophomore year, but I was excited to go to college and had no plans by any means to ever drop out, but it was my chance to go and chase my dream in professional drag racing. I was a goalkeeper in soccer, so I was diving on my shoulders, ended up having this crazy injury in my shoulder, a blood clot in my subclavian vein. But about a month later, after I decided to leave, is when our family top fuel car really became available. My grandfather, before he owned the top fuel car and started driving professionally, he owned a small racetrack in Clay City, Kentucky. As soon as school got out, end of May, beginning of June, I would spend all week long weed eating the fence line of the drag strip, getting paid probably $4 an hour. And then on the weekend, I was getting to drive our little family junior dragster, going 65 miles an hour, and I thought I was on a rocket ship. And so I had a lot of conversations with my grandfather, who owned everything, my uncle, who was our crew chief, and I just said, you know what? It's an opportunity that we have now to pursue this thing. I don't know where the money's going to come from. And we were needing about $2.5 to $3 million a year. And when you think about how that compares to other motorsports, that's actually pretty low. If you compare that to NASCAR or Formula One. And so I went home and I got 7 jobs, and I literally had 7 income streams coming in at one time. I do not remember sleeping. I did not have enough time between jobs to like change at one job and go to the next. I changed my clothes in my car going down the road from like a soccer outfit to a full shirt and tie outfit, back to athletic gear, whatever. I changed 6 times in one day going down the road. And I don't remember that being odd in the moment. I just remember thinking, of course I'm going to do that. Like, I'm chasing this dream of driving a top fuel car, and I did. So every dollar I earned and made, I was saving and I was putting into that dream in top fuel. Looking back, it was an all or nothing thing. And I don't regret any bit of that, because of what all that experience and what all that failure ultimately led me to.
Bryce left Campbell University to pursue drag racing full-time. Though he had skill and was working hard for his dreams, that hard work just wasn't paying off.
I start driving, I get my top fuel license. We start doing some what's called match races, which is just exhibitions. I was trying to find the big money sponsorships, and I was going in and out of all of these offices and all these companies and businesses that I knew. And man, everyone, it's like they thought it was cute. I remember being so offended because they didn't see me as the professional. They saw me as a kid chasing a dream. And I remember being like, look, if you would just give me a shot, I will work harder for them than they could ever ask a brand ambassador or a driver to work for them. But I was still stuck in an old business model in that industry, which was in the 90s, where it was all about exposure. Right? Hell, give me $3 million and we'll put your company on the side of our race car, and this many people will see it every time it goes down the track. That's a broken model. That's not marketing anymore. It's all about experience and all about engagement. And nothing I was providing then had anything to do with what marketing was transforming into back then. It was also hard because that was 2010, like the last big recession. And I remember talking to a big construction company, and the CEO, he said, Bryce, I just laid off 500 people. Like, I can't put a dime into a race team right now. And I understood that. And so to me, it was like, okay, so what could I do? Do I just give up? I remember going to my grandfather one day and saying, are you keeping all of this for me because I'm your grandson? Are you keeping the equipment? Because I was running all the costs, but there's a lot of equipment that was just sitting there. And finally he looked at me and he was kind of like, I guess I am. And I said, sell it. I said, don't keep this stuff for me. You got to this level after 50 years of working your guts out. Like, if that's what I need to do, I'll do it. Because he started on old abandoned airstrips, souping up Oldsmobiles, and he was just known for getting a little bit of extra power out of these cars years back in the 50s and 60s. And so I was kind of like, if that's what I need to do and build it, then I will. And so after we got out of professional drag racing, I went into corporate America. And I was like, I'm just going to go create wealth. And again, if it takes me 40 years to get back into drag racing, I'll do it. But I remember the night I knew it wasn't going to happen. I was so exhausted. It was a couple years of just begging people basically to give me a shot. I had just come out of pitching an insurance company, and I was so broke that after this company said no to me, calling them to get my sponsorship proposal binder back, because I had no more money to go print another. And I remember out in the parking lot and through the trees, there was a softball field, and it was nighttime, so the lights were on, and it was like an adult league going on, and everyone was laughing and having a great time. And I remember standing there and feeling so sorry for myself because I did not have a moment in life for the last several years where a night like that would have been even feasible or possible, because I was running so hard. And I remember thinking, maybe I'm just doing this wrong. maybe these dream things are not what life is all about. And I remember thinking like something is either going to change or I'm going to die trying to make this work.
Bryce walked away from the world of racing and found success as a businessman recruiting and placing CEOs for other companies. While motorsports was no longer the center of his life, it was always in the back of his mind, until one day, his past caught up to him in an unexpected positive way.
When I was at Campbell University, I hosted a kid on his soccer recruiting trip named Morgan. Morgan grew up with the family that started Gravedigger. And a lot of people listening to this, if they've heard of Monster Jam or Monster Trucks, they've heard of Gravedigger. Morgan grew up with that family. And so he heard that I had gotten out of drag racing and went into corporate America. And he said, Bryce, you need to talk to Monster Jam. And I thought, I don't know, I'd never grown up around those. I'd never even been to a Monster Jam event. He said, we got to talk to him. So I did have a conversation with them, and they sent me out to an event. I remember the first time I saw a monster truck fly through the air, and I went, yep, I would drive one of these. And so I called them back. I said, hey, I'm interested. And they said, timing's kind of off for us, but we do have your information. And if timing is better, we'll let you know. And so I put Monster Jam on a shelf too. And I was like, okay, great. And so I just went back to my corporate job, placing CFOs and CEOs into private equity backed portfolio companies, loving it, right? Making a ton of money and thinking about how long is this going to take till I can get it back into motorsports and in drag racing. And 4 years go by and I forgot about Monster Jam. And I remember I was at my desk and there was a number that popped up, didn't know, let it go to voicemail. And later at lunch, I listened to the voicemail. And it said, hey, Bryce, this is so-and-so with Feld Motorsports, and we've had your information all this time. We'd like to speak with you about coming up and going to Monster Jam University and auditioning in a 12,000-pound Monster Jam machine. I was like, okay, great. So I called them back, and my first question to them was, how much is this going to cost me? Remember, I had 7 different jobs at one time making the Top Fuel stuff work. And nothing's for free. He goes, it's our equipment. No, we've got our facility and everything like that. And so I asked him again. I said, so just like a flight in a hotel? I remember getting excited. I'm like, man, for $1,000, I'd probably do this. And he got frustrated. And he was like, no, we will buy you a flight in a hotel. We just want to know, can you get off of work and be in Paxton, Illinois to test a truck? And I was like, of course I can get off of work. You're telling me this isn't going to cost me anything? I get to go up and drive a monster truck? I jumped at the chance, went up to Paxton, Illinois to Monster Jam University, and I come back from that event. I did not hear a word from anybody. I didn't know if they were excited about me. And again, it was radio silence again. And then 4 months go by, and I finally get a call from that same person. And he said, hey, Bryce, we've actually got a truck in mind for you for next season. I was in a truck called Monster Mutt, which is what the truck is today. I'm back in right now here in 2025. And I was still in my corporate job, and I did 12 weekends that year, and I remember it almost killed me. Like, I was working 12 to 15-hour days in my corporate job, and my firm, thankfully, shout out to Charles Harris in Greensboro, North Carolina, they're okay with me trying to travel and do that, and they thought it was a cool story, right? Work-life balance, and we got a professional Monster Jam guy over here doing this. And I thought at the end of that season, I was like, maybe I shouldn't do this anymore. But that's when the big opportunity popped up with the sponsored truck that came up, which ended up being Great Clips. Looking back, the hindsight is always 20/20. But sometimes we're afraid that this moment, is it a breakout moment? Is it an opportunity? Or is it a distraction that's going to keep me from where I'm going? And so I wasn't sure whether the opportunity that they were bringing to me, which was a full-time salaried position, which means I would have to leave my corporate job, was a distraction or not. And I remember I was on the phone and I was in my shop and I'm looking around at all of the things that I had hung up, and every piece of memorabilia, these memories I had captured, pictures, posters, cool stuff I owned, everything was from motorsports. And you know what wasn't on the wall? Any accomplishment I had in my corporate job. It's not like I placed some big CEO and printed off his picture and stuck it on my wall. Those were not the trophies, so to speak, of my professional career. I got off of that call I was on. I called Monster Jam right away, and I said, I'm in. Because I knew that I was built and put on this planet to impact the world through motorsports.
That impact has propelled Bryce to stardom in his field, and now he wants to give back as much appreciation and positivity as he's gotten.
Monster Jam has been the biggest megaphone I could have ever asked for in order to allow me to impact people. I've gotten to set a Guinness World Record through driving a monster truck. I've been a TV commentator for Fox Sports 1 and NBC Sports over the years. It's just been pretty surreal to say that's been my world these last 9 years. It's also bizarre, just the number of fans I get to meet. Like, I'll go into a weekend and we've got pit parties where fans can come out and meet the drivers, and we'll have 10,000 people come just to the pit party. That's not even the event. They're not watching a monster truck do anything. A lot of people, if they've not been to Monster Jam the last couple of years, they have no clue how big this brand is and how big the reach is. And then they come out to the event and their mind is absolutely blown, because it's not Larry the Cable Guy sitting beside them, it's families, right? So it's people of all ages and all gender, and they're coming out and they're having a great time together. They're getting out from behind a tablet or a screen and they're making real family memories again. And I get to be part of that. I don't care about just entertaining some kid hopped up on cotton candy sitting in the stands at some stadium, calling that impact. I want that kid, that family, to know that they can go and chase their dreams. And I want them to know that they can have these awesome moments in their life, that whether they know how those moments are going to pan out, and they can't see that moment as necessarily an opportunity right then, but they can believe that they've got what it takes to make that their moment, where one day they'll look back and they'll go, man, I'm so glad I had the faith that I could go out there and actually make it happen. And if I could inspire one kid, one family to do that and have their moment, believing that nothing is ever wasted. Failure is never final, man, that's what it would all be about.
Bryce Kenny, welcome to Just a Moment. I got to tell you, brother, I am so excited. I've been waiting a long time for us to have a chance to chat. For those that are listening, Bryce and I did a 4-city tour together last year, speaking for a hotel brand, and became fast friends. That brotherly love that is nudging each other on a daily basis and getting those digs in while we can. It's so great to have you here, bud.
Thank you, man. I'm looking forward to this too. And I agree. We had so much fun last fall. We need to probably start our own podcast together, don't we? What did we name it? Was it the Rock and Roll Tour? I think it was.
That's right.
Yeah, everyone's just going to think that's because of your awesome background as a musician and in rock and roll, but it's also because I'm a professional monster truck driver, what I call a professional crash test dummy, where my job is to roll. So you're the rock, I'm the roll. I like it.
We just spell roll with a giant monster truck wheel as the O, and then it makes more sense. See?
Your branding mind just never stops.
It doesn't. It's a problem. First of all, let's talk just for a second. It's funny, the last couple of guests that we've been talking to have been talking about perseverance. And can you stick it out long enough to outlast those who quit? Because most people do. And I love that you've been able to take what you could argue is a failure perhaps in drag racing, but have turned it into, I would argue, a much larger platform than you might have ever had if you were successful in drag racing. Would you agree with that?
100% agree. I wouldn't have been ready for that success. One time when you said the secret to momentum is being ready to know what you want to do when that momentum swing is over. Like, how are you going to maintain momentum after this momentum swing is over? And man, that stuck with me big time. And looking back, I agree. It's when you talk about perseverance. I think a big part of perseverance is just looking a little bit further down the road to say, okay, when this works, what will I do next? Then you're going to be ready for that next momentum swing. And looking back, I think I did that without even knowing I did that. I was working at that every step of the way, even if I didn't necessarily know how I was going to apply it.
What I love about this idea is what you're telling people is it's okay to pause your dreams. Just because they didn't happen in the timing that you wanted them to happen or after you had tried so hard doesn't mean the dream is over. I don't think people think that it's possible to pause a dream. I think they approach it as an all or nothing endeavor.
I wonder if it's because we all feel like it's failure, right? It's a choice on whether you waste that failure or whether you apply that failure to your next moment and to that next opportunity when it arises. And are you going to be ready for it? Are you going to recognize when something is a moment? Or are you just going to think of it as something that's distracting you from your 9 to 5 today? I think failure is probably the best tool at helping us to recognize when good opportunities and the right opportunities actually arise. Have you ever read the book, The One Thing? I think it's
No.
Keller Williams, the big realtor
Yep.
guy.
Yep.
But it's called The One Thing. And I think it's a phenomenal book about that very thing where it's like, it's getting things down to, if you were to say like the best thing you were good at, and then it helps you focus on making sure that you do at least that one thing every day. For me, it's allowed me to focus my opportunities over the years too. And I narrowed mine down to communication. So my truck last year, I was in a truck called Mohawk Warrior that was sponsored by Great Clips for 8 years. And I
Yep.
found out that Great Clips was going away. And so then I found out that the truck was going away. Just because my situation was changing, the one thing I knew that I could do was communicate. And I really started to throttle up, no pun intended, on more communication. And I would
Yeah.
filter that through the content I made for social media. It's like I found that if I put my voice on a video, it just did better, it performed better. And so I started focusing in on that one thing. And then I started filtering opportunities through whether I was getting to leverage that one thing or not. And if it was an opportunity that really did not enable me to either communicate or make me better at communication, then I
Mhm.
started to learn to say no to those things. To your point, it doesn't mean the
Yeah.
dream is dead, and it can come back in a way that you never even expected, bigger, badder, and better. And that's what
Yeah.
we all hope for.
So let's talk. I'm really curious about this moment you wish you could get back with everything you've learned, all of these lessons that you've been able to apply through failure.
Yeah.
Tell me about, give me a little bit of context as to what was happening with this moment that you wish you could go back and revisit.
So last year, I realized something that was put into my brain, not by anybody else, but by myself, and more so in my heart. I hate to say it that way. It almost sounds cheesy, but it was like an agreement that I had made. I didn't even know I had made it back in college, back playing Division I soccer. And I would call it second string mentality because I only played the first 2 years. I never really got to play a whole lot. I did get to play some, I had some big wins and big moments as a Division I soccer player at Campbell University. But I remember my sophomore year, I was so mad because I wasn't getting playing time. And the guy in front of me, he was a great goalkeeper, but I just felt like I wasn't getting a shot. And I felt like I was wasting my time even being there because he was only a year ahead of me. So it was going to be my senior year before I could even really get to play. And I remember I was throwing a fit. I was mean to my coach because I felt like he wasn't even paying attention. He was just in love with this other goalkeeper kind of a thing, and I wanted him on the field. And it was probably true, to be honest. Looking back, there was a little bit of truth into that. Basically, that other goalkeeper went into a big time slump, and I got my shot. And we were playing Gardner Webb at home. When I tell you I could not catch a cold, let alone a soccer ball as a goalkeeper, it was probably my worst game of my life. I gave up 3 goals. The only reason we won the game is because we happened to score 4, right? It was a 4-3 game. I bet I had 1 save. And I remember slumped over in my locker room after that moment because I had been fighting and working and grinding to get into that limelight and have my moment and have my opportunity to win the spot. I was given an opportunity, and dude, I absolutely failed. And I was slumped over in my locker room like we had just lost the game. And we won 4-3. But I knew I would not have a leg to stand on the rest of my career because I botched my opportunity. And in that moment, I made an agreement with myself unknowingly that I was not first string, that I was a second string guy. I always had this self-imposed lid
Mhm.
on my abilities. And then going into Monster Jam, this isn't my world coming through Monster Jam. And so it's like there's all these big names, the Anderson family that started Gravedigger, Tom Mintz that was been around for 25 years. So who's Bryce Kenny?
Mhm.
I didn't think I was insignificant, but I would have told you had I had these words to say that I was second string until last year. After the Mohawk Warrior truck went away, I had this moment of realization that I had held on to that ever since that moment after that Gardner Webb game in college. And I finally rejected that agreement. And I said, look, you can choose to stay second string like you have been in, or you can choose to put yourself in the game and be first string. But there's no coach on the sideline right now waiting to put me in the game. It's my choice. And dude, I'm telling you, whenever I made that decision, there was like a light switch that went off. There's something different about me, and I don't know what it is. I've had so many people this season, the last 6 months, say, dude, what's different about you this year? And I'm like, I don't know. Even my driving abilities on the track are drastically different. I'm in the series championship chase right now. I'm in third place. I'm only 20 points behind first place, and it's a dogfight. And no pun intended, because I'm in a truck called Monster Mutt. It's wild to think that the only thing that changed was recognizing that I had a choice to make to reject being second string and choose to put myself in the game. And to think that I was second string almost subconsciously for the last 9 years. Sometimes I wonder, how much time did I waste? Yeah. What opportunities did I waste? What networking things did I not take advantage of that I probably would have? But if I could get it all back, I would go back to that Gardner Webb game. I would go back to that kid slumped over in his locker. And I would say, look, I know this sucks. And I know you feel like a massive failure. But whatever you don't ever let yourself accept second string mentality, and you're a first string guy.
I hope people are listening out there who have this second string mentality right now and are encouraged that it's up to them, that the coaches in their life may have moved off the sidelines and now they're their own coach. And if they're waiting for somebody to say, now's your shot, that comes from you. You got to give it to yourself. Brother, how can people stay in touch with you? What's the best way for them to follow you, to keep in touch?
I'd say the first thing I'd plug is my website, brycekenny.com, BRYCEKENNY.com. Can't even spell my own last name. But they can find my book, Geared for Life, on Audible. If you're tired of my voice, don't get it on Audible, because I voice it over personally. But if my voice has been sweet honey to your ears, then Audible might be for you. But they can get the hardcover as well. But Instagram, I'm at Warrior Bryce. Talk, Facebook, all those things. I love seeing where this journey takes me and the people I get to meet. And I'd love to hear that. I'd love to hear if someone maybe resonates with that second string mentality. And if that makes one person out there choose to go back to being first string, I want to hear from you for sure. Message me, DM me, any of that stuff. But brycekenny.com is probably the best way.
Bud, I love you and I am so proud of you. And I got to tell you, for those that don't know, I am so excited to be able to go and cheer you on at Atlanta Motor Speedway this weekend for my first ever Monster Jam experience. Sherry and I are bringing some friends to be able to cheer you on. We are so excited to be able to catch up with you, bud.
Oh, we're going to have fun. And I do have one question for you then. What is your expectation of coming to a Monster Jam event this weekend? What do you expect to see or feel?
Let me say this. The funny thing, and we've talked about this, before we did our 4-city tour together, and I was fighting tooth and nail to get this gig, and I was told there's only one slot left, and they were being really aggressive on what the takeaways were, and they wanted this to be practical and tactical, and the fact that I was a former rock star really didn't mean anything, because they didn't care. They just wanted this deep training. And then I find out that they hired 2 people, and it was me and it was you. And all I was told is that you were a monster truck driver.
Yeah.
And I was like, are you bleeping kidding me? I've been fighting for months with my Cornell certified in the psychology of leadership background to prove that I'm worthy. And they hire a monster truck driver to speak next to me. And when I asked, what was it about him that really got it? They said they liked his energy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, liked his energy? What?
No takeaways required.
And so we came into this tour together, and I had this expectation of, what I thought in my head a monster truck driver was going to be like.
Yeah.
And we were completely wrong.
Yeah.
We were blown away by, honestly, how amazing you are as a speaker, how amazing you are as a human, and just fell in love with your heart, man. I feel like I got another little brother now, and I can pick on and poke fun at whenever I need to say that every monster truck driver wants to be a rock star. Yes. And secretly now, all I care about is wanting to drive a monster truck, and that's all right. So maybe my dream will happen one day. But the idea that I can come and watch this now, I have no idea. Part of me would have thought that Larry the Cable Guy expression you had earlier would have been it, but somehow I feel like it's the VC guy sitting next to me with his family now saying, this is what we want as an experience. And I just love that. And I think that's interesting I think it's what the world needs right now, is this opportunity to have these family and unity experience where you can just go and watch some amazing athletes do what they do and just enjoy the sport as a whole.
Yeah, you're going to have a blast. And I'm just excited to host you guys. And I would love for people to know you get on your podcast and you host it. And so you don't really get to ever brag on yourself, but the stuff that you and Sherry have imparted to me unselfishly since we met that very first night is astounding. You guys are batting 1,000 for Bryce Kenny. I can just tell you that. Like, every idea you guys give me is gold. And I have applied it and it works. You guys give and give so much, and you do it in such an unselfish way. And I just appreciate you both, because in my short time in this speaking industry, I can tell you, I think most people are the exact opposite in this industry, because it's very cutthroat and it's just a weird industry. I've honestly been disappointed in the type of person that typically is going out there and building their career as a speaker. And I want to do that different than they do. Yeah. But I'm so glad that I found you guys, because you guys not only give me hope that I can be different, you guys give me a great example of how to be and how to treat people, how to treat clients, and how to treat other speakers like humans, like friends. And that's the only way to do it. So thank you guys for already pouring so much more into me in 6 months than I could ever return. And I look forward to at least giving you an experience at Monster Jam this weekend and showing you a couple backflips, and I'll have to hit a big jump and crash the truck just for Sherry. I know she's going to cheer louder than you are. So
she is, and she'll also be nervous that you hurt yourself. So be careful while you're doing that.
At least someone's going to be nervous for me.
I'm going to be making sure, that you just are lighting the crowd up. That's what that's about. But she will be concerned the whole time, squeezing me, that she thinks you've hurt yourself somehow in the trucks. Yes. But thank you so much for being on Just a Moment. It was amazing, and looking forward to seeing you this weekend.
Thank you, Brant.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Just a Moment. Make sure to subscribe to our podcast and tell a friend or two about it to help spread the word, so everyone can find a moment that inspires them. Don't forget to leave us a review and check us out on the web at justamomentpodcast.com. Just a Moment is produced by Natalie Von Rose and Brant Menswar. For more inspiring shows like this, visit surroundpodcasts.com.